Gun on YouTube. This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the pseudo debut, basically the commercial debut album of Gucci Mane. Basically, this product is called Trap House, and it came out in the spring of 2005. Now, when I say pseudo debut, is the concept behind it. Wikipedia has some information listed that there was a concept like a prior Gucci Mane album. In terms of like his mainstream kind of debut that was on like a commercial label, it's probably this one that's the debut, but there was at least a product called La Flare or something like that. Seems a little bit more low-key, probably like an independent album like T.I.'s I'm Serious or Eminem's Infinite, some of those type ones within those pitches. But it's the basic concept. This album was a particular big deal in setting off trap music just in a differential type format. You did have other folks like Jeezy and T.I. that were particularly doing that with the Atlanta sound as well, but this is a particular one that helped set off like a mixtape type movement that was huge throughout the 2010s with all the folks that Gucci Mane found with like the 1017 Brick Squad Records, Brick Squad Monopoly, a bunch of those folks, Waka Flocka, OJ Juice Man, Woo Da Kid, Slim Duncan, all those folks, Frenchie, a lot of these folks in particular. This was a particular album that got Gucci Mane's foot in the door as far as those aspects of getting him to like commercial bound as far as those pitch gun goes. So this is a big deal, easy kind of classic here, simple enough to kind of say. Basically recommend in almost every fashion, every single song on here. For the most part, out of 14 songs in this album, I wound up recommending 12 with 2 almost songs out of the 14. So basically every song in some particular type fashion, but easy enough, kind of classic, the same sort of impact within I mean, this is a little bit more rugged, kind of low-key type sense. It's kind of more of like a late bloomer and just kind of sleeping giant type territory. It did have some charting singles, but folks like Gucci Mane, T.I. kind of blew up a little bit quicker around these particular times. This was kind of like beneath the surface as far as something that was going to wind up surfacing within like years later as far as this was going to happen. Gucci Mane's more times is more the 2010s, but he had been around since like even like the early 2000s with the fact that La Flare came out in 2001 and this particular album actually came out in the spring of 2005. So some good type pitches. Now, it did at least have a pretty large debut single called Icy. I remember that song. I go way back with Gucci Mane. It's been 20 years damn near that I've known about Gucci Mane within these pitches, just in the pitch. I remember him from like basically about the beginning within those fairs. But it's just kind of concept as far as saying here within the pitch behind it that I didn't realize that this particular album had more than just that particular single. It's just kind of the concept. I remember this one. The other 4 singles of this product didn't really chart as heavily as Icy, but I do remember the particular beef that Gucci Mane had with Young Jeezy around this time. They both were on this particular song and the song Black Tea, but they got into a beef pretty quickly and it resulted in someone dying as far as this was going to happen, and Gucci Mane kind of developed some court cases as a result of that within the pitch. So that was another thing that kind of helped. That was another thing that kind of sabotaged like the concept of him blowing up more in like the 2000s, because similar to how Snoop Dogg kind of had a murder case in like the 90s, this is the sort of pitch that kind of happened with that. But just being able to say within some of those type of affluences that this is an excellent type product here, just being able to say amongst these particular flavors. So it's just kind of the concept. This is very trendy to like the times as far as those pitches kind of happen. And that particular trial and everything that happened with it was pretty unfortunate, but just within the pitch as far as those fairs going to happen, this is an impactful type product here, just being able to get. I mean, it just doesn't feel like a 2000s album that much, just from the pitch behind it. I mean, apart from like the song Icy, which Gucci Mane hooked up with like producer Zaytoven on here, is one of the initial type ones. He probably was with Gucci Mane. Zaytoven had probably done songs with Gucci Mane prior to this particular product. There were probably some mixtapes. I want to say, I'm going to have to look and see what Gucci Mane particularly did prior to this album. I want to say there might have been some concepts of him dropping mixtapes like in 2004, 2003 even. This makes me question the true catalog of it. It's kind of a murky type territory within the pitch, kind of similar to folks like Rick Ross and T.I., some of those type of folks, not as commonly known, but just in the aspects that you're going to find Zaytoven on here, Nitty on here before he produced for Young Jock with like his blow up song, which was It's Going Down, some of those type fairs, and Shoddy Red's on here, some of those early type format type folks that were just Atlanta type producers that were kind of in their early stages. So it's good type fair, just good taste of that. But yeah, just to be able to say it doesn't really feel like a 2000s album within some of those type pitches. I just look after here the concept that a lot of this was producers and folks that were going to blow up a lot larger easily past 2008, 2009, 2010 folks that just had the impact that just dominated like the 2010s, like the mixtape type era. But this is just one that kind of fielded that particular scope and just managed to do it and just have like a good like just clairvoyant kind of foresight to be able to get this done. But yeah, this particular album had 5 singles, so the classic type appeal within it, despite the fact that only really about 1 or 2 of these charted pretty full bound kind of heavily. I'll go ahead and look that up just to be certain, but I remember at least like the biggest song off this album was Icy, but I do want to say that there were some other ones that at least probably cracked like the rap and hip hop or the R&B and hip hop charts as far as those fairs going to go. Like Go Ahead was the only other song that really charted that heavily, but it's just within the pitch as far as saying Go Ahead was the other single that charted pretty well, but that was also a single that was kind of like, that's a song that has shown up. There were some songs off this particular album that were also on Hard to Kill from 2006, just because Gucci Mane did not really get like the full bound kind of widespread success. I mean, it was a good explosive debut within a sense, but probably just with the impact, Jeezy and T.I. just had particular more accolades around this time, I'd have to say. But still, Icy's real nice tune here. It has basically Jeezy's on the song and a cat named Boo Rossini's on the song as well, so some good type pitches. It's more Atlanta folk, this typical kind of Atlanta type highlight. Icy's like a classic mid 2000s kind of neighborhood trap boiler to kind of get here. This night venue rumble, I'd have to say about this one. This hooky kind of song, definitely, and just an embellished type song kind of get here. Very lit type one. The pizzazz about this song is pretty immediate within that fair. This is kind of one of those ones. This is pretty good introductory type song to like the Zaytoven type style for the most part. This is a great introductory single to Gucci Mane and Zaytoven as far as what's first going to happen. Now they've done thousands of songs within those pitches, some good type fair, but this is an initial type one. Despite the fact that Gucci Mane has outstripped this song, it's still pretty much like a premier type one to kind of get. When you think of Gucci Mane, this is easily one of the immediate type ones. Like when you think of Jeezy's Soul Survivor and like T.I.'s like 24, some of those type pitches, it's just a constant staple from Gucci Mane. Just an old school type one considering everything he's done. Now Gucci Mane obviously has thousands of songs. He has over 50 projects, pitches like that, but this is just one that's seems like a career highlight for him, just in the impact of how it consistently is around. So it's a good type pitch. The title track, Trap House, is an excellent one as well. Basically, the whole album's excellent within pitch. 10 out of 10, like I was saying. But Trap House, like a neighborhood, kind of goes him. House Party kind of rumbled, kind of get here. And an early bird for like Gucci's kind of subgenre that he started within some of those type pitches. So there were a number of type formats of trap music within some of that type fare. You had the traditional kind of 2000s type fashion that T.I. kind of did, just some more kind of urban, just a little bit more ride out type sense. You had Jeezy's type format, just a little bit more motivation type sense. Then you had Gucci Mane's type format with a little bit more house party, just localized type sense, just within pitch it, just more kind of amongst like the still amidst kind of the grind of still having like more urban type fashions, more so than the full bound kind of the success rate being this full bound. So Gucci Mane was still more in the trenches around this time with some good type pitches, good concept of just the pitch of just the aspect of mapping out trap music within the fold, just because it really exploded basically in like the 2010s, late 2000s. Just really did it, but this is some early type formats of that. Good type song, just real nice, prolific type one. Money Don't Matter is the third single here. Now this is like a good in-between type one. This switches up the tone a little bit. This is like some concept. This is one that doesn't seem as commonly talked about. I don't remember this song from back in the day as far as what's first going to happen. It seemed like a more single that was attempted but just didn't have like the full-blown catch on. But it is a good concept. Kind of see this one. It's a good aspect here. It's like an in-between kind of stack money, typical kind of routine tasks and traverse to kind of get within those aspects. It's good for snack runs, some of those type fares. It's basically with Bellas in mind. It's kind of the pitch of this, picking up some goodies for Bellas as far as those fares will kind of have with it. Just kind of hang out type fashion, just in the after effect of just like a relative, not necessarily lengthy day, but just kind of concept of the typical kind of malaise that particular fair, just a good unwind within some of those type fashions, just more localized type fashion behind it. The type basic kind of melded more this softcore type fashion compared to most of this aspects kind of viciousness. So it's just good type tone. But once again, a lot of this just doesn't feel like 2000s type fashion. It's definitely pretty alert and just overall feral for like 2005. This is definitely one that's kind of ahead of the times, a lot of senses. So it's just some good nice ones. This is kind of like the Gucci Mane version of like a song by Jeezy, like Tear It Up, just a little bit more neighborhood type Johns within the pitch behind. So good type fare for that snack run type fare. Go Ahead is the fourth single. Now, this is a repeat song. This was also on Hard to Kill, and I want to say also possibly Back to the Trap House from 2007. So this is a repeat song, but this is a staple. It's another one of Gucci Mane's best songs. That's a career highlight from like his 2000s days. I'd say this is one that just consistently continues to have the heaviness. I want to say this is produced by Nitty. And some of these Nitty type beats are really pretty heavy on here as far as those aspects can go. Real excellent type ones, but Go Ahead is like a vicious kind of house party send off to kind of get just a gnarled, kind of get hella tore up fun to kind of have within those pitches. Probably one of the ones that get the most tore up to within those aspects. Just some dance heat, definitely a good song to jam hard to. So this is just one of those ones compared to Icy, which is just a little bit of club ambience, just some kickback to kind of have for that malaise, that just like this kind of gelling with things as far as those aspects going to go to some hangout type fare. I feel like the concept behind Go Ahead is just a little bit more dance heat to kind of have the concept. Now I've talked about this one. The reason why I'm talking about this one again is because it debuted on this particular album, just within the pitch behind it. It is a pretty good staple, so just the concept of just having that particular aspect, but it is one that is worth it on either, and it is worth it for one of the ones that's on any of Gucci Mane's albums, whether it is the 2006 or 2007 albums. It's a good type pitch, so this is an easy staple. That's All is the fifth single, and this is another highlighted one. This is pretty much on the same gnarlment as like Go Ahead and Trap House, some of those type ones is Gucci Mane really has some vicious type ones. The only real song that doesn't have that aspect of just like the feralness, the house party type craze, just Money Don't Matter. But that's all is like a consistent kind of red hot local 2000s car, and just gonna get here. Just very hooky, some Friday thrills with that and Commotion. I definitely say here just an overall lit song. So it's just within the pitch as far as saying some of these type ones. A lot of this just has more localized type fashion. Gucci Mane was more residential bound within the pitch behind it, just more kind of neighborhood type ROMs and pitches like that. Just Red Cup type music, not as full bound like every single song Red Cup, but just within the fashion, just having some commotion for like local type fare, just you and your pals or you and some bells, pitches like that. Some of that standard commotion, just like that particular kind of Friday, Thursday night type fare, and more of like a neighborhood type sense. So it's just kind of a good pitch for that. It's because there weren't a ton of folks. I mean, Young Jock kind of did a little bit, but he didn't do it as full bound as much as Gucci Mane. So it's just a good product for Gucci Mane, considering that the Hard to Kill album from 2006 by Gucci Mane did this pretty well as well. But it's just in the pitch that this definitely has some local rumblers. So compared to Jeezy, who was well on by this particular point in 2005, who was making more kind of staple type anthems. Not to say Gucci Mane wasn't a staple, but it's just kind of more within the sense of like more mainstream type appeal with songs like Soul Survivor and Then What and Trap Star and some of those type ones and Go Ahead, some of those type pitches. He was just more ready for like commercial gloss versus aesthetics kind of have. But Gucci Mane kind of came up within the trenches. It's interesting kind of get this. It's the concept of just having still on the grind a bit and still getting to some of these murky type ones. It's the aspect of it. So it just has a lot of that fare on here with some good type pitches. Yeah, but basically, like I was saying, there's 14 songs on here. There's 18 songs the album, but minus the 4 skits and interludes and pitches like that, narrows it down to 14. And out of those 14, I wound up recommending at least full bound kind of 12. But then the 2 almost songs that complete the album would be Damn Shoddy and Corner Cutting. 2 almost songs that complete the album would be Damn Shoddy and Corner Cutting as far as this pitch kind of happens. So Damn Shoddy is like an uppity kind of DJ drama soul to kind of get here. Just an in-between kind of traverse in motion, I'd say, but it's just somewhat jangled. Damn Shoddy just kind of has an abrasive type production on there. It's not a bad song as full bound, but it just seems more skip worthy. Damn Shoddy is not a bad song full bound, but it just seems more skip prone just within the pitches. It just kind of has not as like kind of just doesn't have as much symphonic and kind of ambient kind of just fair sonically as far as this pitch kind of happen with it. Just kind of a little bit more just like jarring type one within the pitch, but it's just kind of the concept, basically taking some of that DJ drama type soul, which Gucci Mane did mixtapes with DJ drama as well. So it's just some of those type pitches like that house clean type music that you get more Aaron type fare, but just kind of in it's a more jangle type format. So it's just kind of the concept. It feels like Jeezy just nailed these particular vibes a little bit better. There's only one real attempt on this particular album. It's just a good type pitch to be able to get to some of that there. It is a good type pitch of having that traditional kind of mid 2000s type mixtape type fashion with some of that, but it's just kind of the pitch as far as saying that this is not quite as net of like one compared to some of those type pitches within that relative type fare. So it's just one pitch. It's not a bad song, but this is a little bit kind of sketchy within the sense that I'd say this concept. But I still recommend the songs that's pitched like that. And then Corner Cutting's another one like that. It's like a schizo and kind of frenetic, just let off steam, kind of cruise around and kind of get here. Just a song to get shit done quick as far as those fares going to happen. So just kind of the concept of one. Corner Cutting's just one that's a little bit more riled up just in the fashion, just like the typical. This feels like a makeshift song within a sense, but just kind of the concept of just being a little bit wired within the concept of it. It's kind of the pitch behind some leftover motions, kind of similar to songs like Hustle and Two Things, just within the concept of it, but just a little bit more, not so much in like a traditional kind of recreational type fashion, but just kind of the concept of like, damn, I got some shit that I got to get done within the pitch, and I just am kind of not necessarily nervous about it, but just kind of within the concept of just a little bit more wired than like the concept of like normal kind of sedate type modes within it. So it's just kind of the concept of just having a little bit of freneticness just in the pitch, just kind of more of like a frantic and kind of tensive type one within the pitch, but still good type fashion. But it's just kind of the concept that the more like the vibe of this particular song is just not as fitting compared. The vibe of this particular song, Corner Cutting, is just different from the rest of the album as far as what's first gonna happen in terms of like the usual kind of more aspectness about it. But some good type concepts. So yeah, this album gets a 10 out of 10, like I was saying. So some of these here, like Pyrex Pot's a nice one. It's like a glissy kind of early bird 2000s kind of stunt music kind of get within those pitches. Just some venue pull up, I'd have to say. Just good pizzazz about that, and it's like a 2010s primer flash kind of get here within those fares. So basically like 2005 version of some of those stunt type songs that you would have gotten in 2013, and even as far as like 2016, 2017, some of those type pitches that Gucci Mane kind of did and helped set off those trends. It's kind of a concept or definitely some vehicle type snaps within the pitch behind it. It doesn't have like the full bound kind of bass and just thump that you would hear, but it's definitely one of the most glissy type ones. And I want to say for the most part, it didn't seem as full bound like Jeezy had these particular songs on Thug Motivation 101, or T.I. had these songs on like the 2005 PSC album 25 to Life, some of these type pitches. So it just feels a little bit more glissy within the fashion, just a lot more just kind of just like, this has a lot more gloss and snazz about it within those pitches. So it's a good type concept. Just an early bird, like I was saying. Hustle's a nice one on here. It's like a snaring kind of basic game laid flat song kind of get within those pitches. Just introductory within the pitch of just having the concept of just getting to the standard hustle of it. It's like a routine kind of night grind weaving. It's going to get within those senses, just out in the wind as far as what's going to happen. So this is still more residential bound, but it's just kind of the concept of just being amidst the grind as far as those assets going to go. Just a game type song kind of get just the concept of just out and amidst like the conduct of like the product of it as far as those assets going to happen. Just good type fare. Basic song, but a hitting song. Another nice one for some ride-out type music. There are some ride-out type songs down here, just like a more night and kind of dark type fashion and stuff that Tupac would kind of do. Tupac was a little bit more recreational towards it, but it's like a 2000s version of the sort of stuff that Tupac would kind of do in like 95, 96. Black Tea, Two Things, Hustle, some of those type ones have those particular fares. I'd probably say there's at least a couple other ones like probably Trap House and possibly That's My Hood and possibly Corner Cutting, I'd have to say, but basically, Black Tea's a pretty stellar song on here that has pretty good posse song. It's another song that has Black Tea's, another song that has Jeezy on there. So if you do miss those particular team ups, there is another one at least. Bun B from UGK is on here. Killer Mike, Jody Breeze from Boys in the Hood. Killer Mike's on this song. Jody Breeze from Boys in the Hood. Ford Trey, and then Lil Scrappy. So it's a big type song within the pitch, but it's like a further kind of residential commotion kind of get here. Good blitzer for that. Heavy hitting kind of posse tune, definitely I had to say, in some dance seats. So it's a pretty good dance song within those pitches. It's good aspect. I want to say that Wikipedia back in the day used to say that this was a single off this particular album. It definitely feels like it should have been. This would have been a nice music video, but this is kind of like a diss song to them Franchise Boys in like a minor sense. It was interesting that Gucci Mane didn't fuck with them as far as those fairs going to happen, but it's just like the antithesis to that particular song. It's just kind of a concept there, but it's just kind of pitch, Black Tees within the more ride-out type fashion of it, just more kind of mission type task within the tone behind it, but it's just within the aspects as far as saying it's just a dynamite type one that has a lot of barrel type energy. Booty Shorts is nice one. This is one of the best songs in the album in terms of the catchiness of the chorus. It's like a woozy and wicked snarl kind of lady song kind of get here. Just an R&B type swag about this particular one. When you think of swag type rap and pictures like that, it's like an R&B version of like some swag type rap. But I'd say just a good house party mingle kind of get here. Overall hot song kind of get. So just a great one to kind of, great song to wake up the bells as far as those pitches kind of happen with it. Just more typical type fashion for some of these house party residential type bound type ones, but just some further excellence. Lawnmower Man is a nice one on here as well. It's like a hella glaze kind of summer step out to kind of get just smokage in your system, fares like that. I mean, there are some songs on this particular album, but it's not really as full bound drug oriented. I would say is within the particular pitches you do get songs like Go Ahead, but a lot more of these are just more residential, just in the concept of like more socializing type fashion. I mean, there's definitely some Gucci Mane products where he gets pretty tore up. I'd say probably the heaviest song in terms of like the concept, apart from like the slurred out type fare of like Go Ahead, I'd probably say the closest song to like some smokage where you're just glazed as hell would be Lawnmower Man. It's like Lawnmower Man's like a good neighborhood grub jaunt to kind of get within those pitches. Just getting some Taco Bell, KFC, some of those type pitches, some of those type fares. Just getting frozen burritos, Chex Mix, some of those type fares I've talked about within those pitches. Good type tone for that. Good excellence there. And then Two Things is a nice one as well. It's like a more alert and ride out ready kind of productive hustle tune to kind of get here. Just amid the song is just amidst like the night breeze, I'd have to say. There's definitely some songs in like a ride out type fashion, like Black Tea, I'd have to say, and a little bit of hustle, but just not as like grind like, I'd have to say. But Two Things is like a more alert and kind of ride out ready. And say Two Things is still a little bit more amidst like the work shift, just in like a late type fashion. If you do have some late products to get to where the hustle is not finished up by 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock p.m., it's a little bit more of like 8:30, 9 p.m. pitches like that. Just a concept of just getting like some night products done. I mean, it's more of hustlers makeshift, more so than full bound blue collar, but it's just in the pitch, just like that typical kind of concept that just has the aspect just like being productive within a sense of some good type fares. Then That's My Hood is another nice one as well. It's like a neighborhood kind of trap turn up to kind of get within those senses. Just some basic hangout noise I had to say here. Just circle smoke, and by that I just mean more powwow type music, smoke with your pals, some of those type pitches. Just good socialize within that, and some good TV jams within some of those type fares. Just watching movies, having some movies on some of those type fashions, Pulp Fiction, some of those particular type ones I'd have to say, Speed, some of those type ones in particular I'd have to suppose good type fare. That's My Hood is another good neighborhood kind of revolutionary type one, just like Trap House. I'd have to say some of those type ones that just feel like very much like the skeletal type stages of the stuff that Gucci Mane was doing with like the State vs. Radric Davis and like the Appeal, Georgia's Most Wanted, and 2010s type projects like Trap God, some of those type fares. So it's just good type conduct for some of that. Just good set off the neighborhood trap boiler within pitches like that, some of those typical type fashion. So it just nails those aspects extremely well. Just a revolutionary type one, just classic 2000s type fashion. So yeah, I just look after here, just being able to say, so this album is a 10 out of 10 just from the pitch, even despite the fact, I mean, you would say 12 out of 14, would that really be like a 10 out of 10 within the pitch? I mean, I look after it, you could almost say within a fashion, it could be more of like a 9.75 out of 10, because I would feel like 13 out of 14 would would be a 10 out of 10. You would say 12 out of 14 was just within the concept. Moreover, like a light 10, if it isn't a 10 out of 10, it's damn near a 10 out of 10. It would either be like a very stable kind of 9.75 out of 10 or like a 9. It'd either be like a very stable 9.75 out of 10 or like a light 10 out of 10. But just within the impact of it, the fact they got the 5 singles, revolutionized some things in terms of trap music even 12, 13 years before it really hit like its widespread kind of acclaim with it. Just did stuff way back in like the spring of 2005 compared to folks who were having like the formation of some of that sound way out in 2015, 2018, 2020, even some of those type fashions. Just feels more of like an impactful type classic. Just like saying that Thug Motivation 101 is a classic, Dirty Sprite 2 is a classic, T.I.'s trap music, some of those type pitches, T.I.'s King, pitches like that, it's just with the impact of it. So just definitely in terms of like the Atlanta sound and like a 2000s rap album type fashion, it is like a classic, just very impactful, just nailed it within the pitch. Most of these, there's plenty of boilers for like the residential type, neighborhood type fare. It's easy kind of one for some dynamite localized in that fashion, so it's good type pitches. I mean, it has some makeshift on here, it's just more in like a hustler's makeshift, so it just kind of meets you halfway with like the concept, like the productiveness of being like in the hustle type mentality and the grind, but just within the more type, just within more of like the type concept of just kind of more urban within sense. It's just good type pitch, but it does have some of those type ones for like the work shift and pitches like that within a more urban type sense. It's good type tone. In terms of the future, like Gucci Mane's supposedly working on something that I've seen recently on his YouTube, that he's been putting out some songs or pitches like that. He has plenty of these projects. It's been an aspect. He's been dropping like compilation albums, some of that type fare. A lot of these are pretty beefy within the pitch, so he has plenty of these, over 50 mixtapes, some of that type fare. I'm going to get to some more of these. I do want to get to Trap House 3. I've reviewed Trap House 2, which is not called Trap House 2. It's called Back to the Trap House. That came out in 2007. I'm going to get to Gucci Mane's Murder Was the Case from 2009. It's just a bunch of these to get to. I got plenty more with the Gucci Mane type fashion, but it's just with an aspect. This is a classic here. Easy enough to kind of see that, and easy some 2000 kind of dynamite that just did a lot.